Pandora's box is about to open wide.
Alright. They told me pa-ra-pa-pum-pum.
I could see your smile growing as that song was playing.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just quite a little happy song, isn't it?
It is indeed.
A newborn king to see, pa-ra-pa-pum-pum. Our finest gifts to you are ra-pa-pum-pum, ra-pa-pum-pum, ra-pa-pum-pum. Welcome to Pandora's Box, everyone. Drew had his little mask on when we first logged in with each other, and he looked like Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Because obviously he doesn't want to be... There it is, looking in all its glory. Yeah, for people that are watching, as well as just listening. And that is a little reminder to people that are listening on the radio. If you want to see us and all, see our various visages in all of its glory, you can watch us on Spotify or YouTube as well. But we can give us another little taste of that. There we go. If that's not worth watching live, I don't know what is. Oh, look, there's a sneak peek.
Yeah,
there we go.
That's why I had the mask on, because I was sat in that neck down, back to its original glory.
Oh, baby. Look
Taking
at
that glossy, sticky finish off, getting it down to the bare wood.
Oh, baby, down to the bare bones.
I'm going to enter the competition.
Mate, imagine if you won it. Frigged.
I actually like it if you want it, because then I'd get to play it.
We could play it more often. Yeah, that's true. Just keep it in the office, yeah. Yeah, for people that don't know, Pandora's Box, the show you are currently listening to, we're going to do like a little, what's it called again?
A little giveaway?
Yeah, like a giveaway. Yeah. I love how I didn't even remember just that simple word, giveaway. Yeah, you know, where you do the whole like
share, and subscribe.
Comment, subscribe, and then be in the chance to win a very unique guitar. It's going to be a one of a kind because Drew's working on it, himself. So it was originally, it was originally a Westfield Strat. It's about, let me think, how old am I now? 35. I think my brother got it when I was maybe 12. That would have been 2002. So it's about, let's say it's 25 years old, because obviously it was bought maybe 23, 24 years ago. But obviously it was already made by that point. God knows how long it had been sitting in the shop for. So it's at least 25 years old, quarter of a century old, Westfield Strat, but it's going to be way better than it originally was, because Drew's doing work on it. He's completely upgraded all the frets.
Can you see them shining?
Oh, mate, I can see it. And they look beautiful. I'm not even joking.
Yeah,
that's like Twilight. That is,
but
not like the gay
movie,
but with Robert Pattinson. I'm talking about, just like the stars, beautiful twilighty stars.
Twinkling, baby. I got a Dremel and everything to do that.
Oh, mate. You're serious when you get a Dremel.
Yeah.
He's been Dremel.
Polish them up.
Polish up those Dremels. Drew, can you make sure you're talking close into your mic?
Yeah, I'm right here, baby.
Yeah, there you go. I think you were like a little bit quieter. But
a little bit quiet. Here we go.
I think it was just because of microphone proximity.
Damn.
But yeah, so we will be doing a giveaway. I said it'll be a custom-built guitar. So yeah, one of a kind. There'll only be one of it in the world. Drew has even gone above and beyond and found somebody that's going to put the Pandora's Box logo, if you want to call it that. It's going to say Pandora's Box on the headstock. For all of those friends of the pod out there, you're going to have a chance to get a one-of-a-kind
Here's
Strat,
a sneak peek at the
custom-built, custom Strat.
Plate.
There's new scratch plate.
Some might say it's the best guitar in the world.
Yep, new frets, new scratch plate, new strings. Oh, literally completely sorted. Drew sanded it all down. Custom headstock logo.
There's the
workbench. So it's going to be really cool. There's Drew's workbench, and look, that's Drew's little work monkey.
That's Gerald helping. Look,
that's Gerald the work monkey.
He's been helping on the net cow.
Oh, he's just chilling. Is it a giraffe?
Yeah, it's Gerald the giraffe.
Oh, Gerald the giraffe. Is he an expert luthier? Is he?
Yeah, man, he's been showing me everything. He's been showing me how to refret.
Oh, so cool. People that don't know, a luthier is the name of like a guitar carpenter, basically, isn't it?
Guitar maker, baby.
A guitar maker. That's pretty cool, isn't it? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I found a podcast actually called Luthier on Luthier Podcast, and it's
nice.
Amazing. It's like if I'd have, it's about 3 or 4 years old now, so it's not like really old, but it's just like interviewing it's a luthier interviewing like all the best luthiers in the world, and it's so cool, getting loads of little tidbits of information on there.
Wow.
So I sit here late into the night with the headphones on, sanding the neck and listening to Luthier on Luthier Podcast.
Nice, man. Well, if you had that little mask on at the beginning. I read the other day, and I feel like Do you know, I have mixed feelings actually about even sharing this because I feel like we're so paranoid in this modern world about everything, aren't we? Like, oh, no, I can't even bloody clean my kitchen without dying. But I remember reading that, like obviously like cleaning products, like just from like, like frequently, spraying your sides down with like, cleaner and stuff in the kitchen, all the rest of it, and breathing in those fumes. Apparently that's like, obviously that often you're breathing that in without thinking about it, and that sits in your lungs. And apparently that's like super, super bad for you.
I can imagine. I literally I got that mask. It's the proper one with the filters on and stuff because I was sitting in here sanding for like ages and doing all the frets and that, and I didn't even think about it with the frets because you got to file them all the sides down to get them like right to the edge of the fretboard and stuff. Like and it's creating all of this dust. But I thought stainless steel, it's dust. It's probably not going up into the air. It's probably pretty heavy in that. But I'd like go to bed afterwards and be lying there and like just like get real snotty and be like kind of coughing up a bit of stuff and coughing a bit, and I'm thinking, all this is probably just going in my lungs, and with the sanding, you're taking the it's like a polymer like coating, like a lacquer that's that really shiny stuff, and that's like horrible. It's not even like wood, it's like this lacquer, and apparently that's super bad for you as well. So I was like, I'm getting a mask. But I've never used them before.
I think it makes sense.
I think what is good for you,
working out.
I suppose, but I'm sure people would find some sort
oranges.
of negative,
Yeah, but they'd be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm confident in that.
I think it would it not be one of those things where I guess there would be something, but then the positives
walks in nature
heavily outweigh any negatives.
Yeah, walks in nature. But again,
walks in nature, fresh air.
Even that is like a gentle form of exercise. That's what you'd call steady state exercise.
Yeah.
Motion is lotion, as they say. Motion is lotion. I think any form of physical activity is good for you, and there's like no downsides to it. For example,
unless you go too far.
Yeah, but like a critique of say doing heavy weight training might be some really old timer people or people that don't know much about weight training will be like, in the long run that's going to hurt your back. But did you know that there are far more studies that show that people that live a sedentary lifestyle that don't train at all
get fused bones
and end up with more back pain than even like powerlifters and strongmen and weightlifters. Like obviously there will be some like powerlifters and strongmen and weightlifters, even just recreational lifters, that do end up with bad backs. But say that might be 1 in 20 lifters, whereas like 1 in like 6 people that are sedentary, or 1 in 5, maybe more than that, I'm just making up these figures, will end up with a really bad back because a lot of it is like basically the more you use something, the more used to it gets. You get used to it gets used to being used, and as a result, it's sort of like happy being used. And it's like it's almost like it's almost a bit like you hear that thing about you leaving a car in a garage for like 10 years, it might just not start, or even if it does start, you drive it down the road. Yeah, exactly.
Pistons.
Whereas a car that's driven all the time, it's it's
nice oiled pistons.
yeah, it's lubed up, it's ready to go. Which is how you should always aspire to be. Yeah. Lubed up and ready to go. Rubbed down, lubed up, ready for action.
Hell yeah.
So, it's mad how many people at the bottom of their back, like men, get fused together parts of their spine because of sitting down so much. Like, I heard that as well. Like right at the base of your spine, you get parts of your back that just fuse together, and the bone is supposed to be separate, but it just creates like one big like bone, like rather than
that's mad, isn't it?
Stuff. Yeah, so weird.
Yeah, that's horrible, isn't it? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think I can confidently say there are not really any downsides to training because anything that you could say, you could say like about like climbers, like, well, what if they fall off a cliff and die? But I still think the benefits of say being active in any way, whether it's a climber, a runner.
I guess I'm almost thinking of it more in terms of like food and stuff like that as well.
Oh, okay.
Like it almost seems like everything that you hear about, it's like, well, it's good, but it causes cancer.
And like mobile phones, like people saying about someone had like a tumor inside in their head from having their phone up to their ear so much, and just the radio waves that are coming from technology and stuff.
I remember that was like a massive concern when phones started becoming popular in the early noughties. Do you remember that, Drew? When we were like kids. I remember like when it was like around sort of like 2002, 2003, that was almost like the mobile phone explosion. Like obviously mobile phones have been around since what, like early 90s, maybe even late 80s. But it was like 1 in like 100 person had them, and they never really used them. It was like businessmen would like have them in their briefcase, but they'd never really use them.
Everyone.
Yeah, but then in like 2001, 2002, 2003, suddenly, almost like overnight, like the majority of the population had a mobile phone. And I remember at the time it was all that.
Man, I read this the other day. I don't know how true this is, so take it with a pinch of salt, but I think it's true. More people...
Oh, he's gone!
He's gone!
Drew
We've lost him
Deodas
again.
is gone! He's back!
He's back.
Hey, he's back again.
More people own mobile phones than own toothbrushes.
Serious?
Apparently. That's crazy, isn't it?
Why aren't people brushing their teeth?
Mate, I don't know. Maybe it's like just not a thing in like some third
brushing your
world
teeth is just not a thing.
I don't know. It blew my mind. It blew my mind. It was something like 4 billion have like mobile phones and like 3.8 billion have toothbrushes or something.
Wow.
Which is
crazy.
insane.
Oh, I think he's coming back in, people.
Sorry about that.
Drew Deodas is back. That's all right, man. We all have issues sometimes. But
So was it more...
apparently more people have mobile phones
than hot dinners?
than have toothbrushes.
Oh, whoa.
In the world nowadays, more people in the world have mobile phones than toothbrushes. Do you know what? I genuinely wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think it is true.
I genuinely
That's
wouldn't be
insane.
surprised,
Man.
But I remember, in the early noughties when mobile phones became like suddenly a common thing. I remember it was all that like talk like, oh my god, is this going to cause just like massive loads of brain damage and brain tumors and people and stuff? I mean, luckily it doesn't seem to be that bad, does it?
No, it don't. Not the actual like radio. Like I think we would probably be seeing things more than we have. You know, if it was like really bad for you, just like the all that craziness that happened like recently. What we were talking about last time with like Musk and Elon, or I think we were texting about it rather than talking about it on the pod.
Last Friday.
But yeah, like you know, I saw like Joe Rogan like a clip when he actually put that tweet out about Trump being in the Epstein files,
dropping the
and
bomb.
it was just so like, oh my god, it's almost like take the phone off Elon for a minute, like, you know, it's getting a bit it's a bit too much. And then like Joe Rogan's reaction was like, I think when you're just looking at your phone all day, every day, and just tweeting every thought, like that's probably not good for you. Like doing that, and I almost think like the bad part about mobile phones, obviously, like it gets so addictive and all that kind of thing and stuff as well. But just it seems stupid, like the things that get shared and just like I don't know, it's not got as much like substance to it and stuff.
I completely agree, man.
It seems negative, man. And it's just like I'm try and put my phone away as much as I can at the moment because I know how addicted it is. Even Instagram and just flicking through and that and just losing 10 minutes of just like mindless thing. I know we've talked about it loads before, but it's a real issue because it is super addictive and it's not productive, you know. And I think you can do silly things if you just like have it on you all the time. And
and as I said, it's whether it's just like, you know, spending too much time on social media posting or if it's just like doom scrolling, whatever it is. But like, I've you know, like recently, whenever I sort of like go anywhere, as long as I'm not like in work, because obviously it's really handy to have your phone on you in work. But like if I go somewhere in my car, I'll always leave my phone in the like center compartment, you know, in between the front seats. I'll leave it. I'll always leave it in there, and I always feel way better for it.
Yeah,
you know, like what
you're just in the moment more of like, your experience.
What are you going to need it for on a Saturday? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, between the morning and say 6 p.m. Like, what are you going to need it for when you're out? You know,
I don't know if you guys get this, but on my phone I get like screen time updates.
Right.
So like each week it will tell me like have I had like a percentage more
like
on my phone,
15 minutes
or like,
less than last week.
Exactly. But it feels really good when like when I went to Cornwall a couple of weeks ago. After that week, I got a message that was like, your screen time was down 50% this week, and I was like, "Oh, sound."
Yeah, funnily
so
enough,
I'm
on holiday.
Yeah. Funnily enough, you know, I was in Cornwall that same weekend. Yeah, so like, especially if I'm something like that, like I barely looked at my phone sort of like before I'd go to bed every night. But other than that, I just put it to one side. I didn't even use it at all. And
I reckon like a lot of my screen time, it would have been way less, but I reckon most of it was just like maps. You know, having maps up when I'm driving.
I'll tell you what, it's way better when you're in a situation like that in Cornwall, because I wanted to like do like a lot of sea swimming and stuff like that. And like the more stuff you have in the pockets, the more you're like, where am I going to put this where I'm in the sea? Yeah. So I just asked them to have like my card.
Big old clumpy phones and that.
Yeah. Em could like look after my card. That's like the only thing really, apart from my car keys, I needed when I was out. Or like some days I didn't even need that because like, you know, depending on what, you know, whether we walked from their house or whatever, because there's like a beach.
Feel free.
Yeah, there was a beach just down the road from where we were staying. So it was literally just like shorts, t-shirt, trainers,
That's
you know,
it, man.
card, boom,
And
like
that's
nothing
it.
else.
I think as well, like that's the thing I wondered like most about the mobile phones and that, like what effect that's having on us, not so much like tumors in the head and stuff, but like in 10 years or whatever, like you look at, you know, how kids are different now and how people in school are different, and we're saying about like the generations like after us are like schools like completely different, because we had mobile phones in school, but it was like it wasn't as prevalent.
It was like
as, like now.
text, phone, and like Snake.
Yeah, it wasn't
It was
like,
like- it was-
sit there and just consume your whole like day with the attention of the phone. But like, what is that actually doing to us as a society and stuff?
One thing I bet would be really, really depressing, but it just goes to almost show you it's almost like incentive not to use your phone so much. Imagine if like just before you died, you got shown how many hours or days or weeks of your life you've wasted doom scrolling.
And it showed you what you were doing then, and it's literally you're just like this. You're not moving or anything. Your head's just down, and you're just like you're just locked in this like trance.
Slowly getting neck problems.
Yeah.
I'm just staring down unnaturally, because obviously it's quite an unnatural position.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Your default head position should be obviously straight ahead.
Yeah.
And you should be like moving, you know, get used to moving it all around and stuff like that. But like nowadays, it's like our default position is like this.
On
This
that
can't be good.
on that app that I got called Opal, which is meant to be like a screen time lowering app, essentially.
Right.
So you can block all your social medias and stuff, and you just can't get onto them for the day.
Nice.
When you first sign up for it, because it gives access to your screen time, because that's like how they track how you're doing and everything. And it tells you how many years of your life you'll spend looking at your phone. And then let's say like once you set in a plan of like what you're going to block, how much time you're going to stay off Instagram, stay off social medias, it will then say how many years it's saved you doing that.
That's so cool.
That's like a really cool
That's
thing.
a nice thing, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's quite, yeah, as you said, Drew, it was like very innocent when we were younger. I remember like almost like one of the funnest things that we did with phones sort of around 2000, 2003, 2004. Would just be
Photos and
almost
videos.
like, well, no, I was going to say, because that was before photos and videos, wasn't it? I was going to say it would almost be like, you remember like everyone, you'd get like in like newspapers or like you'd have little booklets and it'd be like, you know, you could like text like a number to like download a ringtone.
Oh yeah.
And it would be this hilarious like 8-bit like Enter Sandman like ringtone. And like that was almost like one of the funnest things to do with phones in those days. It was great.
And
That was
play
so much
Snake.
fun.
I used to
Even like in the
Snake.
early days
Yeah.
of like the iPhone, the funnest thing would be getting like a beer app and be like, I'm drinking beer, you know, and the beer would be going down.
I
That was
don't,
like-
I don't even know what that is. What's a beer app?
just like it would just have a beer on your phone. You go like that, and it would look like you were drinking it.
Mate, that is
That's
so
like such
funny.
early phone days.
That is so comical. Man.
I got a shaker on my phone.
What I find really interesting as well is it seems to be not just my generation, the younger generation than me, that this is really affecting, but also like an older generation than you guys. Like I almost feel like the older generation, you see so much now, particularly not even necessarily with phones, sometimes with phones, but also just like with TV, just like spending your entire
It's
day
always
like,
been a
sat
big thing
in front
with
of
TV.
a box.
Yeah, like my nan for like definitely like that.
Always just
that
has the telly
generation of the literally.
Because
just
that doesn't
all
seem
the
that much
time.
better to me, to be honest.
No,
I think it is better, but I know what you mean. I'm not saying it's like night and day better.
No,
I do think it's like.
Yeah,
yeah.
it's the news and stuff, and just like say for my nan, like her only perception of the world is literally what is fed through the TV on like, you know, doomsday kind of news stuff. Like at least like when you're a bit like you know you got your phone and you're looking up your own sources of news and stuff.
Yes.
You can like tailor what you're seeing a little bit. Like sometimes it's a bit like my nan doesn't even understand some of the stuff I'm saying because she's like. No, but you know the world's going to end. Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's such complete night and day, isn't it? Like the information, if you can look up all these different sources and stuff, and almost like and almost like try and find like root cause of issues and looking at from various sources and stuff like that, rather than almost like a tailor-made narrative. Which is then being almost like fed to you, which is which is basically what the news is nowadays, unfortunately, on television. But I think the reason why, so I completely agree with you guys on that when it comes to like news and stuff. But the reason I think television is better than phones on the whole is because if you compare, say, wasting 2 hours of your life doom scrolling compared to, say, 2 hours of your life watching like a masterpiece movie or television program, like that movie or television program is it's like a work of art,
piece of
isn't
art,
it?
yeah.
And it's like a combination of various arts because you've got like the score, which is like from musicians. You've then got like the writing, like which is a form of creativity. It's art. Even like the wardrobe,
immersive experience.
The wardrobe,
I
the art.
absolutely
It's all like a combination of all these actually very quite fascinating.
I could never give up movies or amazing.
No.
Like, you know what I mean?
I think my point was more
They
to the
take you on
people
a ride,
that would
don't they?
like to the people that would be sat all day just watching like game shows.
Yeah, no, I
like it's
completely
pointless,
agree.
and then the
Yeah,
chase, and then like
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
yeah.
That kind of lifestyle.
Or-
I don't see how that's any better.
Or the other day, we have a work experience girl in at the moment. Really nice girl, Imogen, but we've just decided to call her Peridot Greenleaf. You'll meet her in a couple of weeks, Drew, because at the moment
Gypsy Bride.
Yeah, the Gypsy Runaway Bride. Yeah, so
Yes.
at the moment she's only doing like Mondays because she's still doing her college work. But in a couple of weeks she's gonna like break up from college, so she'll be in like a lot more often. So you'll probably see her when you're like down next and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
But she was like, we were talking to her about like Love Island, and obviously I don't know anything about Love Island. But you were both talking to me about like Love Island, and it was really interesting for me because I was getting like an insight into it, and you were saying about how much of a phenomenon it was when it first came out. And funnily enough, Drew, one of the only things one of my key memories of Love Island, funnily enough, which will be relevant to you, kind of,
Shaz.
is I remember when Sherelle used to work here. So as you know, for people that don't know, obviously you listen on AW Radio, you can see the AW Radio thing, even if you watch us or listen to us on YouTube and Spotify. So basically AW is a big company with professional services company with different departments, do like accounts, tax, research and development, radio and media, stuff like that. Upstairs, Drew's little sister, Sherelle, used to work in payroll. She was like a payroll assistant, essentially. But Sherelle is like such a funny weirdo. She'd be like sat there doing her like payroll stuff, and then she'd just have Love Island on her phone. So she'd be like doing her payroll stuff while watching Love Island. And I remember I'd go up there and I'd get like some water, and she'd be working in the room with water, and I'd be like, Sherelle, what are you watching? She'd be like, Love Island. I love it. I missed the one last night, so I'm just watching it now. And I'd be like, all right, that is freaking mental.
Yeah, she loves a bit of that. That's the thing, like so different with my family. Like my sisters are both like proper love those like reality TV shows and things like that, and they'll just like watch like mindless crap on TV. And
They were like a proper phenomenon back in the day. Like I was saying to Cal the other day, I can remember being in school and speaking to friends and being like, oh, let's go play football after, or let's go do something. They'd be like, can't, Love Island's on. Like it was everyone was watching it. It was like a huge thing, probably the last big like TV thing that I can ever remember. Right. And it probably will be one of the last for my generation because TV's kind of dying in that sense.
Shaz was telling
me I don't
about...
really know many people my age that watch TV, but that was one that everyone was in. Like I even watched the odd episode.
Yeah, Shaz was telling me about this one that sounded really weird, and it was like Love Island, but it was like for like virgins that were like
Virgin Island.
Is that called Virgin Island?
I think so. And
she was telling me about it, like, and I was just like, "What the hell?" And these like therapists and that, like that are on the island and stuff, like they will actually like have sex with them and that. It's like really weird. Like they'll go over as these virgins and like I know. And I was like, "What?" So the actual people that are there, they were actually, and she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "What?" That's just so weird. Like
wait, I like the idea.
Like therapists over there,
a virgin
that
sex therapist, but like basically what they do is just sleep with the virgin. That's so weird. You think they'd just be talking to them about like why do you think that you are a virgin at this stage in your life? You've obviously like trying to get them overcome whether they've developed like an issue with the opposite sex where they've, do you know what I mean? Like, there's various.
She was saying it's
reasons,
mostly like self-esteem stuff, and the whole experience of the show, and like and what they learn is to how to become more confident and more in tune with themselves and stuff, and then by the end they're a bit more normal and like, do you know what I mean? Like they've obviously got like these big issues and stuff, but some of them will actually like sleep with them. That I was like, that sounds pretty mental. I'd quite like to watch it though.
Well, Bullwinkle and Peridot Greenleaf were telling me about this mental one, and what was that one called?
Temptation Island.
This is straight
Love
up
Island, Temptation Island,
mate. This
Virgin
one's
Island.
like straight up unethical. It's immoral because the people that actually came up with the premise of this show they
try and make them cheat on each other with couples.
Couples go on it, right? And then so like the man will go into like a place where there's loads and loads of hot chicks, and they're basically the hot chicks that their job on the show. They're essentially getting paid to try and seduce the man, and they're all like really hot. And then meanwhile, and the woman will do the same thing. So there'll be all these like studs, like Calvin Klein model studs, charmers, like absolute charming guys. Yeah, and they're just they're trying to pull the chicks. And then the women are trying to pull the guys, but they're all in relationships, and at the end of the day or at the end of the week or whatever, they'll show each other like what the other one's doing, and apparently like loads of them end up cheating, loads,
and they'll just be forced to watch like a video of their like significant other just getting banged.
Literally because it's like there's literally like a video, brutal. Like there's cameras like showing their beds, so even though you don't obviously I guess like see it, you'll just see that the woman's just getting like by like these men, and then the guys have to just sit and just watch it. It's like a form of psychological torture, mate. It's like fucking Black Mirror. It's like straight up Black Mirror.
What is going on with TV nowadays, man? Like that is just crazy. It's like
imagine having to sit there and just watch that, and just sitting watching your missus getting banged, and go like, oh right, okay, well thanks for watching, thanks for making me watch this. Yeah,
thanks for spoiling my life.
I remember it was really funny actually. I can't remember what the hell it was called, but last year we went on like a fun little like long weekend excursion, and every day we'd like drive to a different place. So like me and Em and Evie. So the first day I drove to Oxford, went round to Oxford Museum, got a hotel with like a nice swimming pool and a gym and everything. So did the whole gym and swim, went out for a nice meal in Oxford. Then the next morning woke up, drove to Cambridge, like explored Cambridge. And then the day after that drove back down to Marlborough, which is more down Somerset way again. Sort of quite nearish where you used to live, Drew.
Oh, cool.
In Crockerton. Like nearish.
I've heard of the cigarette, but
I can't remember if it's in Hampshire or Wiltshire or Somerset, but it's they're all pretty close.
Yeah,
it's all that basically. If you went down the A303, you'd be able to get to Marlborough, sort of thing. And it was when we stayed in Marlborough, because the first couple of hotels we stayed in when we were in Cambridge and Oxford were quite spenny. We were just like, right, let's just get a Premier in the last night. You know what you're getting. You get a breakfast in the morning, whatever. We would just wanted a nice place to crash after we'd explored Marlborough, and we were just like in bed, and we were just like flicking through telly for a bit, and it was like this weird show. It was a bit like the shows we were talking about, but it's like couples go to this like mansion where there are like sex parties. But it was like, the show was like, it was like following these like three different couples, and it was basically like just following the story of them like then getting involved with these orgies and stuff, and what it was like. But it was so weird and it was so strange, and it was like I just remember like we only watched it for about 10 minutes, but it was proper hilarious. It was like this guy had only gone because his missus wanted to go to it, so she'd basically convinced him to go to this weird sex mansion, and he didn't even want to go. And I think the woman like had this fantasy of having like a threesome with another woman and him, and then he
didn't want to go.
Well, like no, I think he just felt a little bit uncomfortable with the whole idea of going to like a sex mansion, and he didn't really know what to expect because there was loads of stuff going on in all these different rooms. Because I said it was like a mansion, so there were like 30 rooms or something.
The pleasure dome.
But then while she was there, she like talked to another girl and was basically like, "Do you want to come in this room for like a threesome, me and my boyfriend?" And she was like, "Yeah, okay." So they went in there, and then like the girl started kissing. But then the girl started kissing the guy, like not the girlfriend, the other woman. And then the other woman straight away just like lost her rag and like stormed out of the room. And then the guy just looked like really awkward and then like ran out after us. And she was like, "Sorry, I can't do this. As soon as I saw you kissing that girl, it just made me so angry." And he was like, "I didn't even want to be here. Like you were the one that wanted to do this." And then she just like had a full on paddy. Yeah. And I think they then went in and tried to do it again. But then, like as soon as the girl touched him, she just like lost her rag again. Yeah. And it was like, I remember thinking it was like, such a stupid, weird program. We were sort of laughing at it. We were like, "Well, that's freaking weird," and then just sort of turned it off and went to bed. But I was like, and I thought we were like saying as well. Imagine like even just like signing up for that with your partner. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, I definitely want the nation to watch that.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I told you about this one before. I feel like I mentioned it on the pod before, but like this really weird one that I just flicked on once, and it was this woman who was like a reporter, and she was doing a documentary about this like weird little culty like group of people, and it was like an orgy thing, and they would all like kind of live together in the house and stuff, and just all be different couples and all be like this community and everything, and then like they would just do this like weird thing where they'd get in a room and put like plastic sheets down and just get tons and tons of baby oil, and everyone will just be naked in the room, and they turn the lights off, and then they're just all lying there in this squiggly mess on the floor, and it's not even like who the person is next to you, and they'll all just be like flopping all over
Like a
each
bunch of
other
fish
and kind of
that have
like,
just been
and then
captured.
and then it gets all like real sexual, obviously, in that, and then like they end up all banging each other, but you don't know who you're banging and all this stuff. And she like went in there like naked and like started doing it, but then she was like, oh my god, no, I got to stop this, and like she actually went in like near the end of the thing and like tried to take part in it. But I was like, that's pretty weird as well, isn't it?
Mate, I love the idea that you're all just like so covered in baby oil that you're just like slipping around everywhere. Like, you can't even just like get your bearings.
Yeah,
you know,
you don't know who it is.
Mate, when you got that amount of baby oil on, surely just like
It's like the Diddy parties.
Surely you don't even know what's.
You'd end up in an earlobe.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you'd end up in an ear piercing.
Yeah, I was gonna say like it's already like literally it's pitch black.
You'd end up in a flesh tunnel.
Yeah. Oh, mate, you think you're having like sex with someone? You're just like shagging a guy's flesh
nostril,
tunnel.
just like
Just shagging Nicky C's flesh tunnel. Nicky C's a really good mate of ours, by the way.
Thrown under the bus.
Oh, mate. Well, not really.
your
Just
way
got a flesh
into an
tunnel.
earlobe.
I was just thinking of the first person I could think of that had a flesh tunnel that I'm like good mates with. But,
someone's armpit, just like
oh yeah. In your head, you're like, oh man,
little bit of hair you feel there, like
definitely having sex with an attractive person right now, shagging some guy's armpit. Oh. That's the thing with like baby oil. I said like baby oil and pitch black.
That was the
Yeah,
thing with like
that's a
Diddy's
combo.
parties, wasn't there?
Was
That
it?
Diddy's freaks off. Have you not heard about the whole like Diddy freak off thing?
No, I've heard about Diddy's parties and that apparently they were probably very illegal for various reasons.
Let me see if I can find
they
how
start
much
this cult
baby
that I'm
oil they
talking
had.
about?
Yeah,
Maybe, yeah,
maybe they were basing themselves.
Maybe
on Diddy.
maybe I was watching one of Diddy's parties.
Yeah.
How much baby oil did Diddy have?
Mate.
It was like 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
That's a lot of baby
outrageous. Apparently they had like
Swimming
allegedly they had some sort of like drug in them as well,
Oh,
which is a bit mental.
Mate, what drug exactly?
Mate, I don't even know.
Viagra.
I don't even know.
Cocaine or Viagra? Retinol. A cocaine Viagra
or a nice
retinol
mix of all of them.
A weird
that's a
mix of
party.
like you're sort of buzzing, but you're also
Yeah,
like,
your hypnos making you go to sleep. You got a raging stonk on as well.
and you're sort of like strangely buzzing even though you're passing out like at the same time. Yeah. Oh, mate, what a weird thing to do. Yeah.
Mental.
Some people. Do you remember? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think I might have said this on the pod before, but one of the weirdest things I've ever been invited to was yeah, I got invited in about 2016.
Wasn't
or
it a New
something.
Year's party?
I got invited to some weird sex party in Leeds, and it was like, and I was like, oh right. So to be honest, I don't think I did. I don't think I was going to say I never had any intention of going. I never got far enough to even make up my mind on that. Do you know what I mean? But what I'm getting at is like once I'd had the initial information, I think that was enough for me to be like, I'm not sure if this is for me. But,
Man, you would have been like a sardine. You
Mate,
one of the fish flopping around.
But apparently, like, it was like this place in Leeds, and you like go down these steps, and it's almost like an underground room with like various, like it's like 3 or 4 rooms underground, and it's all red light down there. So it's just like like dim red light, and apparently there'd be like somebody, like this woman was telling me like. That so that I don't know for example because she'd been to a couple in the past. There'd be like a guy in a gimp suit like spinning on a wheel that was like tied to a wheel. And she'd like spinning and stuff while people were like doing stuff to him, like whipping him or whatever, or whipping her. And then in other rooms, there'd be like various different things going on. But basically, it was almost like this big sex orgy thing, but with like a lot of like BDSM and stuff like that.
Mad what's going on out there, isn't there?
Mate, it's mental, isn't it? Like sometimes you're just going about your business day to day, and then you get a glimpse into this other world. That,
and how it's
you're
so
sort of
normalised as well. Like over in Amsterdam, you got like the red light district and stuff. Like I always wonder about that. Like because my dad was saying they went over there, just like they went to Amsterdam, and they just took a walk down the red light district, and it's all just like super hot women in the windows trying to like entice you in and stuff, and just like all like, kind of like
babe
almost
station
like mannequins,
back in the day, but in a window.
Just, and I'm like, that's so weird.
Do you know why they used red lights?
No, why?
It was apparently back in the day, a lot of them would have had, I believe, herpes, and the red light would make it so that it didn't show up.
Oh, I thought. I was at least hoping then you were going to say it would make it actually show up like really well. So then you as the
no,
as
I think it was the opposite. I think it was to like mask it.
That's horrible, isn't it? What a horrible thing to do. What a horrible thing to do.
Crazy.
Yeah.
When the couple times that I've been there, I went on like a pub crawl, and like the last time that we went on a pub crawl, and there was just a lot of people that were on the pub crawl that you could just tell like really wanted to like go and knock on the window and be like, "Let me in," you know, because like you'd be walking down like going to the next pub, and then you'd be like, "Is anyone gonna go? Is anyone gonna go in the red light tonight?" I'd be like, "No, mate, no."
Did you ever walk down there and see it though?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
What was it like?
Mate, what I find mental about it, and I said this like both times that I went, it seems mental the first like couple seconds, and then once you've seen it, it just feels normal.
Yeah, this is what I mean. It's like normalization
really
of that's just the way that they do it, and it's like, you know, and it's quite that's just, it's cool. It's weird. It's cool. It almost reminds me of like Roman times, like how it would have been so free and stuff, like all these like
when you watch like Spartacus and they're just banging
it's like. And I think once people are doing it, it's probably pretty normal. It's just like, oh, this is the robe party, the derobing party.
They have what were like little cubicles like all across Amsterdam, like on the canals and up where the red light is. And nowadays they're just sort of used as cubicles, I believe. But I think back in the day they were used so that if you like wanted to get a prostitute on the red light, some would just come into like the cubicle with you just out in the street. Which is a bit mental. Like it's almost just like a stool, but not really like fully contained. Like your legs still on show and everything,
Right.
which is a bit mental. So like back in the day, there would have been people just like banging, just like up the street, not even like in a little house or anything, just like essentially just on the side of the road.
In your little box.
Right.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I think like our friendship group on the whole, even though we like freaking love having a laugh, and you know we can be like really silly and act clownish and done quite a lot of crazy stuff combined all over the years. At the same time, I feel like we've all got like an element to us where we're a bit like old-fashioned and a bit like, do you know what I mean? Like we're like a bit old-fashioned and a bit like reserved in a way. So it's a bit like, you know, I'm not going to do an orgy. That's mad. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like quite funny, but I feel we've all got like a bit of that to us.
Yeah.
Whereas like I've definitely had some friends in the past that aren't like that. That would be a bit like, come on, Calum. Come on. And we were like, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Sort of thing. Like, I'm not so sure about that. But yeah, only like a couple I can really think of, you know?
Yeah.
I remember you saying, though, Drew, like your girlfriend you had like 10 years ago. I remember you said that you just lathered each other up in baby oil once, and you said that it was like a weird water slide, and you were just like sliding all over her and that in your room and stuff. And you said that like your pee-pee just accidentally kept sliding into like every single hole in her body. Or something like that. Obviously, it was a long time ago you told me. Something like that?
I remember it went through the legs, and I was like, what the hell? Is that even in? Like, oh, no, it's not. Oh, sorry.
That's what we're talking about, though, isn't it? When everything's that baby oiled up. I mean, everything's just slipping around everywhere. You don't even know what's going on where, you know? It's like some weird little slippery water park. Man, that's crazy, isn't it? Right, should we tackle some controversial subjects?
Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Like we already have.
Yeah, mate, that was nothing. Well, I don't know. It depends what you're on about. It depends what you count as controversial, I guess. Interested in your guys' takes, and anybody's listening as well. You know, you feel free to send us your thoughts, whether it's on YouTube, on a comment, or on Instagram or whatever. Like DM us, and maybe we'll share out any of your opinions, anything like that. But I saw this the other day, and I thought, do you know what? I'm going to save it. I'm interested, almost like in a philosophical way, what your guys' views are on this. So, true or false? It is your duty as a parent to be physically fit enough to protect your children from danger.
I definitely agree with that, and I feel like I'm not living up to the mark.
Yeah, I mean it's hard. You know?
I think to like a certain like you should just be like, obviously you're not going to tank a bullet half the time, you know, but you should be fit enough to save your family from danger.
Yeah, you know? I mean that's pretty much my general thought process as well. And I think, as I said, I don't think that you have to go full on extreme to the point where like every man is running around like freaking Rambo. If he's
yeah, exactly.
Or like Colonel John Matrix from Commando, where he's like single-handedly taking out like an army at the end. Do you know what I mean? Like somehow every bullet's missing him, but he's just like killing everybody in the vicinity. But I think there should be like a certain standard. You know how like. You know how like when you join the military, there's like a certain standard, and it's like, look, you don't have to be SAS level to join the British Army. You don't have to be like freaking UFC champ, But there's like certain things, isn't there? Like I think it used to be like you have to run a mile in a minute. You have to do at least be able to do like 10 push-ups in a minute, things like that. And it's like, do you know what I mean? It's like it's not actually that outrageous what they're expecting, but it's like baseline. Like you can't be an absolute slob and still do it, because if you are, you're a detriment to your fellow soldiers, servicemen in the military. And I think it should be a bit of that sort of thing. Like you don't have to be freaking Superman. You don't have to be able to tank a bullet, as you said, Bullwinkle, but there should be a certain standard. Imagine how funny that would be if that was like put into practice, so almost like on a government level. Like if the government then registered you as a father, then you had to like yearly go through a test.
Yeah.
But I said I don't think it would. I don't think it would have to be like.
I think a bit like martial arts training and something. Like I wish I knew it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, but just having at least like a grounded level of that would be super helpful. Like to just know that you can defend in a certain situation as well. Like. Yeah, like fitness one, but also like the martial arts side of things. Like I think that would be is something that I've thought about. Like like that would be a really good thing to just have. You know,
instead you've just got kukri.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I rely too much on tools.
I guess that's almost like in America what their sort of
like gun rights.
Gun rights are like it's almost a shortcut to that, isn't it? You can protect your family without being like really fit and healthy and
in theory you could be like the fattest slob and like shoot dead like a UFC champ.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, of course you're not going to try and take him on one-on-one. But
I know it was to do with like the political stuff in the very beginnings as well, wasn't it? Like that you have a right to bear arms against the government if they're not doing like what they're supposed to be doing.
Obviously their whole thing was obviously originally their government was our government, was the British government, and then obviously they revolted, and then ended up winning their independence through the American Revolution. And then because that was so important to them that if in future they would need to do that again, that was like their right to bear arms. Because I would guess, if those Americans settlers didn't have guns, well, they wouldn't have ever been able to fight the British military, would they? So that's the whole thought process behind it. But I guess it's like going back to that whole, is it your duty as a parent to be physically fit enough to protect your children from danger? I guess there's different aspects to it, isn't there? Because obviously you were saying like a martial arts thing. But I think even not necessarily even like to protect your family from like an assailant, from an attacker. I think little things like, and I actively think this myself when I'm working out. It's like if you woke up and your house was on fire, would you be fit enough to carry out your child and your wife or your partner safely? Would you feel confident that you'd be able to get them out of a burning building? Or like if you were obstructed in some way, would you feel pretty confident to remove?
The car.
Yeah, maybe not that, but remove whatever obstruction was in your way, or at least give yourself a really good fighting chance of doing it. Things like that. That's what I think of. And even though it's like outlandish, because the chances of this happening, even though it happens in action movies quite a lot, and thrillers and stuff, probably isn't very realistic. Say if you were like driving on a road that was going off a cliff or something, and then you were like hanging on a precipice for some weird reason, would you have the strength to pull yourself up? Just enough to do, say, like one solid pull up that you'd be able to pull yourself then onto land. Because I mean, the majority of the population, I bet, wouldn't. I bet, think about the majority of the population. I bet if they were like in a dead hang, they would pretty much end up falling to their death because they just wouldn't have that strength to pull themselves up fully enough to get their leg over and stuff like that. And things like that. So.
Yeah, it's worrying sometimes. Like, not say if I do like a load of physical work, like for just a whole day, like just something that takes like a full day's like physical work. It's like it is a bit like, that's a bit. I can do it, but it's a bit tiring, And I'm a bit like, that should just be easy. That should just be like part of normal life. But then it was this whole thing. I was talking about it when I went on that little expedition thing recently. Not an expedition, like the bushcraft like weekend.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just like a full day of just like making things, cutting down logs, like making the fire, and it was like lots of physical activity. And by the time it got to the end of the day, and I was having my dinner, it was like, oh my god, I need this, and I was talking to the people that were there, and it felt so normal. It was so different to what I'd usually do, but the whole process of setting up camp, building the fires, doing all the stuff felt super normal, and I was like, "Oh, this is how we live." We used to earn our meals, you know, like there was a lot more physical labor with just living, because you had to get the fire going, you had to get like the wood cut and do all this stuff, and I think that's like really positive. Like a lot of the time,
100%.
you know, because it keeps your body active. Like we used to be so much more active. Even like washing, like the women would have to get the thing out and didn't have a washing machine, getting all the clothes and doing all that, you know, and very physical. And I think that's part of the reason why people used to be healthier and stronger as well. Like less crap in the food, less like processed stuff, more just natural foods. A lot more active, even if not like working out as such, like in gyms and that, but just
just physical lifestyle.
And I think more sedentary is almost built into us like now, and for me for sure, like because I've never been naturally like a real physical person anyway. Totally obsessed with everything technology, like growing up and that, and computers, music, all that kind of stuff. And it's just like I'm naturally more sedentary, you know. And it's like
I think it's one of
set up for it.
I think it's one of those things where it's like you can see obviously the benefits and the good intentions. So obviously the good intentions is like through innovation, invention, technology, we want to make our lives better and more convenient. But it's almost like, at what point does that become a detriment? So if it's to the point where, as you said, rather than having to spend half an hour scrubbing clothes just to get out the stains, you can just wash it in the washing machine, turn that on. As soon as it's done, put it in the tumble dryer, turn it on. You know, dishwasher, turn it on. You know, like everything is like, you know, you've got like lawnmowers now where you just like, you give them a little tap and they just like go along basically. And you just like basically.
Sav's Hoover now, she turns it on and it goes around the house, and it's already made like an AI map of like the whole place.
That's mad. Do you know what I mean? It's like little things like that. I think it becomes like too far, and it's like we should be doing a certain amount of labor. Like think about farming back in the day before like local, like, you know, like modern day machinery. Imagine just like scything, having just with a scythe to just like get all of the, you know, to whether it's, you know, cutting grass or cutting hay, you know, like make hay or whatever it is you're reaping. Like that's just a lot of freaking work, isn't it? You know.
To sort of add to the question now, because we've spoken about the physical element of it. What about like a financial element?
What do you mean?
So do you think you should be able to, like, always able to financially protect your family and child?
I mean, I think obviously, yeah, if you can. I think that there's more variables potentially out of your control. Potentially,
for me, that's probably the biggest struggle. Like that, I worry about more than even like.
Oh yeah, of course, because that's like baseline, like, isn't it?
Yeah,
baseline.
It's like it's one of those annoying struggles.
Can you put food on the table?
Yeah, and like and kind of like and that whole thing.
Same with me, Drew. It's stressful, isn't it? It's really stressful because you're like. You know, like you're thinking, like, oh, you know, you want to make sure you got good food. You know, like, how can you
all those pillars of how you can live a healthy life, like, you know.
Yeah. Like how you know, can you always, you know, not just this year, but next year, in 5 years, in 10 years, can you be sure that you can pay the mortgage repayments or the rent or whatever it is, you know, for your car, you know, all these things, they add up so much. And I feel like a lot of pressure as a dad, don't you? You do feel a lot of pressure as a dad to be like the one that's almost like in charge of all that.
Yeah. Especially like with maternity and things, like, you know, and the mum's like looking after the baby more, but that's like less money coming in, and then so you take up more of like the bills and everything like that, and it is just a bit like whoa, like whereas before you could like just kind of like it's more, you know, you're covering yourself and you're only responsible for yourself. All of a sudden that responsibility
so much easier.
It's easier, and when it goes out to other people as well, it's like whoa, you know. But then I think like living like people, I think we've been a bit alternative in the way that like we live, like generally like my friends and the people that I'm close with, compared to say someone who's like my dad or something who would like, you know, he was like a health and safety engineer and like went all over the world, like was an expat and super high up in these companies, like really good wage and stuff, and like, you know, like really specialized in that way. Like I've not, it's for me it's been more like different things, and do do you know what I mean? Kind of like like getting by with it, like not.
I think that's common of our generation.
Yeah, so I think it's almost harder because like I think of like my parents, grandparents, things like that. They all had their specialities and their trajectories. They went, you know, like with something like super professional, and that like brings in the big beans, you know, like
one big old butter bean.
So I think, and that was their priority. It was like, oh, give us a good life and stuff and everything. But then that's a bit stressful for me, thinking about like how to do that in a way that is, you know, going to be giving them the life that they deserve and stuff, you know. And
definitely. But I guess on like a more like positive way of viewing that, though, I guess like, you know, one thing that you don't need any money for is to give your child like love and attention.
Yeah,
and
time.
In theory, even if you were just like proper Victorian times, it was just you, your missus, and a kid in like a little room, and like that was like one room that you just lived in. Like if you were really good parents to your kid and you really loved it, and you know what I mean, like you were really good, you know, like nourishing them. I think you could argue that kid would have a better life than a kid that grew up wealthy but with like really rubbish parents who were like doing, you know, had like cocaine addictions and alcoholics and shouting at each other all the time and having all these affairs and all this. Do you know what I mean? Because the kid's going to grow up neglected with trust issues, you know, confidence issues. So I think that it almost takes a little bit of a weight off. And I think, again, that leads back to the, you know, is your duty as a parent to be physically fit enough to protect your children from danger? Like, regardless of your financial situation, you could ensure, A, that you can give your child enough love, and you can ensure that you are physically fit enough to protect your child from danger. Because all you need is a floor to make sure that you're fit enough to defend your child from danger. Do you know what I mean? If you can walk, run, which obviously is free, do push-ups, do squats, even if they're just bodyweight squats, find a branch or some sort of pole to do pull-ups on, you know, or some sort of heavy objects to do some rowing motions with, or some curls with, or something like that. Buy yourself some cheap dumbbells. Like, you know, you can get in better shape than like 95% of the population, which then you never know in crunch time could become a very beneficial thing. All of a sudden, it's one of those things that like 99.9% of the time, it's not going to make a difference. But that 0.01% of the time, it could be the difference between life and death, or it could be the difference between saving your child's life and your child dying. You know, which I think. So that's I think, you know, a nice thing to maybe take away from that. Which leads me as well as I think, you know, and I think it depends what sort of like level of fitness, you know, we're talking about as well, because as I said, you know, I don't think it's completely unreasonable, and I'd never expect someone, as I said, to be like walking around like, you know, some like, you know, walking around like Captain Marvel or Wonder Woman if you're a mum, or, you know, like frickin', you know, Rambo if you're a dad. But I think at a certain standard, like I can't help, but and not necessarily from like because I'm thinking that person's not fit enough to protect their child, but I can't help but think, and I know that there's a certain percentage of the population that might think of me as being judgmental for this, but I think you can see why I think this, and it does come from a good place. If I see someone that's like really obese with a child, especially if you see that the child is getting quite fat as well, I can't help but think negatively about that, because I think that you're setting a bad precedent for your child. Yeah, you know, you're setting a bad precedent. You're being a bad role model for your child. You're normalizing something which shouldn't be normalized, and it's something that's actually very easy to remedy. You know, eat less, move more. Like, you know, like, and let's face it, like if you said to somebody, do you think it's okay to like, do you think it's all right to kill someone? They say, of course not, wouldn't you? You know, or at least most people would.
You're slowly killing them.
But if you're teaching somebody such bad lifestyle choices that you're taking 10, 15, 20, maybe even 30 years off their life, then do you see where I'm going with this? Like, it's like, it's like to me that's a massive disservice to that person, and like a child is very dependent on you for how you live your life. They're going to naturally copy you. So if you're sitting on the sofa,
that normalization, like what you're saying as well, like even say for me, like because I really struggle with like fitness and stuff. It's
you're not obese.
No, I'm not obese, but like I mean, look at these rolls, man. You can see some rolls coming on here.
Yeah, but I think, but you know, when like you know, there's obviously varying levels of fitness. There's a broad spectrum of fitness, but you know, when you see someone obese,
Yeah.
they're obese. Do you know what I mean?
I do think that
waddling down.
it's to like live in an optimum way. You need to do fitness. Like it's just like a standard thing. Like no matter what your size is, if you don't, then you're starting to atrophy in certain places of your body. That even
definitely.
if you're skinny, like have you seen those like really skinny fat? I don't want to be a skinny fat person like with tiny arms. And then when I'm 40, I've got like a beer, like a big beer belly and that. And it's like I can almost feel it happening, like, you know, and like the thing of it, and it's the normalization of it, like what you're saying, like when it just becomes normal and it's not challenged like it within yourself. It's just like, oh, this is just the way I live my life and I'm doing everything all pretty like da-da. So it's just not a thing. And I think that comes from like parents and that as well. Like my parents never exercised, or anything. And it's like that was not an important thing. Like my dad worked a lot. He had a really strong work ethic and
different
and everything. No, it's very different. And like you know, the food they ate, like never.
And in the grand scheme of things, what's more important? Because I mean, and I'm not saying it's not important. Working really hard in your job, obviously, that's massively important. I'm not.
But then if you haven't got your health,
health is wealth. Like if you don't have your health, then you can have all the money in the world.
If it's normalised to not be even an issue, then that is a big issue. Like
you can have. Yeah, definitely. You can have all the money in your world, but if you're like now slowly dying because of some health condition which is linked to bad lifestyle choices, like bad health choices, then it doesn't really matter.
What I think is like a really fascinating thing is like how individual our experiences are to ourselves. So like for you, for example, you love working out and staying fit, which is obviously really positive, and it comes easy to you in that sense. You know?
Yeah, of course.
For me, definitely harder than it would come for you. I still need to actively be like, I'm going to go work out. I'm going to, you know what I mean? I'm going to seize the day. But don't get me wrong, I find it a lot easier than a lot of people. And I'll never truly be able to understand the people that don't. You know, the people that we are just talking about that really do struggle with fitness and with keeping fit and staying healthy. But I almost feel to an extent that I almost can't speak on it because I'll never truly understand what their experience is and how hard that is for them compared to how hard it would be to me. You know what I mean?
I do, but I think that you're, if anything, being too compassionate to the point of, like, I think, you know, maybe people that are hesitant to make that lifestyle change would be so reliant on somebody like yourself, people like yourself, being maybe like, because are you doing those people a favour?
No, and I definitely think like my perspective would be similar to yours in the terms of I don't understand how it's not easier to you. You know, that's my perspective. Is like,
I don't think
it
has to be easy. I don't think that's the point. Like, no one's expecting it to be easy, and
I think it's too easy not to.
Yeah. And as I said,
it's not that it's hard to do it. It's so easy not to do it.
Sure.
That's what I get stuck in.
And as I said, you know, of course, the same way that there are people that are really into motorbikes, and as a result, they'll go to the Isle of Man TT and go frickin' 200 plus miles an hour down a frickin' road like a nut bar. Do you know what I mean? But like, you know, you don't expect everybody that rides a motorbike to do that. You know, you don't expect everybody that wants to dabble in playing the guitar to be frickin' Tommy Emmanuel or Yngwie Malmsteen. You don't. Do you know what I mean? So what I'm getting at is what we've already said several times. I don't expect a woman to be walking around like Wonder Woman or a man to walk around like Superman. But I think a baseline, which is good for them, and a good, you know, you're not only are you more able to protect your children, protect your family, and protect yourself. And let's face it, because even if you say your children say didn't perish in a dangerous situation, but you did, and if you were simply just 10% fitter, you would have gotten out of that situation. Well, then now you've left your children without a parent. Now they're going to struggle growing up, which is, you know, they depend on you to do that. So you need to stay alive for their sake. But then on like the role model type thing, as I said, you know, you're not expecting somebody to get into it to the point where, you know, they're suddenly loving doing workouts multiple times a week. But I think a baseline level of fitness is actually very easily attainable.
Yeah.
So in that regard, you're not doing anybody any favors by saying, actually, don't worry, I know that it's not as easy for you as some people, so I'm going to sort of like go, you know, go easy on you, so to speak. I don't think you're doing that person any favors. It's like saying to somebody that's like, this might seem like an extreme analogy, but I think it has some bearing. It would be like, you know, somebody that's a heroin addict and going, well, I don't know what it's like to be a heroin addict, so here you go, have some more heroin.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas, like, in reality, you'd be being much more kind.
And it's
like,
always going to be
sort
different.
this out.
Yeah, for like every person, like the level that someone like challenges themselves is like going to be completely different, like case by case. But it is like, I think it's important to like challenge yourself in a certain way. Like, how am I going to like everyone asking the question individually of like, how am I going to push myself today? Like doing something like exercise wise or whatever it is, you know, that kind of strain creates growth, you know, and like and it's just like, I think it can be so easy not even to ask yourself that question that it become like, speaking for myself anyway, that's like what most of the thing, I just get into the things that I'm doing and don't even think about it. But you've got to actively, unless you've created a habit of it and it's just not like, it's just what you do, you've got to actively try and ask yourself that question and create those little moments where you can kind of push yourself a bit. And anyone can do that in any situation. It's just like a state of mind. And
I think a big part of life is challenging yourself, isn't it? And throwing yourself into situations that you're not comfortable with, because you will come out better on the other side.
Yeah,
and that's what a lot of this is. It's challenging yourself and not taking the easy option.
It is challenging yourself, but I think even that is making it out to be harder than it is. I think as like, you know, as you said, Drew, the fact of the matter is the standard to what is considered like a good standard of fitness nowadays is not only not good enough, it's almost like non-existent. There isn't even one. So as a result, it's so easy in this country to become overly sedentary and as a result become very unhealthy. And how many people now, by the time they're 60, especially 70, it's very normal for them to go and pick up their prescription, and they've got like a big bag of pills that they have to take just to try and keep them alive.
Just to try and keep level.
How many of those issues? And don't get me wrong, sometimes even the very fittest people in our society get health conditions, unfortunately, have things wrong with them. Of course. Not making out that, you know, it's going to turn you into Superman, but like a very large percentage of health issues can be negated by healthy lifestyle changes, by working out, good diet, you know, bless you.
Thank you.
By, you know, good diet, good diet. Basically, don't eat loads of processed crap. You know, don't obsess too much about macronutrients and stuff. Just try and like, don't eat so much processed stuff. Just eat like stuff that you can grow and animal products and stuff like that, right? And do exercise, right? And that's the thing as well.
Tasty as well.
Yeah, 100%, man. But that's the thing as well. Not only that, but I don't think that there should be like a set prescription of then like what people have to do that, and that's where a lot of the beauty and the freedom comes in. So you know, I told you guys recently about that Magnus Mipio guy that I got into. Or actually, I think you might not have been here, Bullwinkle. I might have just been talking to Drew about it. Basically, it's this Norwegian climber, one of the best climbers of all time. Right. Got really to start following him on like social media and YouTube, and I just love his videos and stuff. He's a really cool guy. You know, you could get into climbing. There's loads of climbing walls. I mean, there's even one in frickin' Never Stowy nowadays. It's become very common. Yeah. But you know, you could get into climbing. You could get into frickin' some sort of badminton, kayaking, running. You know, doing weights, and there's even multiple different types of weight training. You know, you can go to like, you know, body pump classes, or you can
do high rocks or something.
You can
like
do
that.
high rocks, which my cousin Emma does loads of nowadays. That's pretty cool. She actually ranked, had a real high placing in a high rocks competition recently.
What's high rocks?
Which is like high rocks is like you do like it's a little bit like CrossFit, but it's like basically like, say for example, I think the high rocks she just did.
It's like a race, right?
You do like a 2K run. And then straight away you go into almost this circuit where you'd have to do like a certain amount of farmers walks for like a certain amount of meters with like a certain weight, and then like those ski ergs. Have you seen that with like there's the two things and you have to like, pull them down real fast? Called a ski erg. Ski erg like 100 meters or whatever, and then straight away it's into like a rowing machine for like so many meters, and then like some other weight training type movements, and then it's 3 circuits of that, and then like back to the 2K run. And basically, you get judged on your time on how quickly you can do that. And Emma like bossed it, and apparently, I think I might have even heard that all of a sudden now she's like one of the top ranked high rocks people of her age range in like, the country.
That's incredible.
Which is pretty mental, isn't it? Like fair play to Emma. Shout
it has
out
like medicine ball throws and like sled pulls.
Yeah, that's it. One of the things she was doing was lots of like sled pulls. So you like have to like push a sled a certain distance and then like pull it back again. So it's like very intense. You know, you could get into high rocks, you could get into powerlifting. Do you know what I mean? There's so many different ways to skin a fish. To skin a fish.
To skin a fish.
There's so many different ways to skin a fish I'm going to stick with that one.
One question I would add on top
Makes
of
more
it.
sense than Skinner.
Do you think?
Yeah, more cat friendly.
Do you think this will be an issue with future generations, say my generation? Because I feel like the trend of going to the gym, when we think of like an older generation, like even before like Arnie and stuff like that, just wasn't really a thing, was it?
No,
but they were more active in their lifestyles and
Yes.
the types of wood.
I suppose,
the general standard was higher.
I guess my question is the trend of gym. Let's say it's
Culture.
going on gym cultures. Let's say it's going on a steady incline like that at the
yeah.
moment. If that continues to grow, which I mean, by all means, you would think it would, because as people do get into the gym and learn that they love it and learn that it helps their mental health, and they tell others to do it, and then they do it, and it's just naturally going to fall like dominoes in that sense.
Yeah.
Do you think it's almost a problem that will solve itself?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a very accurate answer to that because I've thought about it myself in the past. I think in 1970, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger won his first Mr. Olympia in 1969, I want to say, and then. Yeah, so let's just take 1970 as an example, because I'm bringing up Arnold Schwarzenegger because he came from an era where it was quite rare to work out like Arnold Schwarzenegger did in the gym, right? And again, I'm not saying everyone has to like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm just saying it was that weightlifting culture, which is nowadays is very common, as you pointed out. Back in those days, it wasn't very common. I think that even if only 5%, 10% of the population in those days worked out in the gym regularly, and then you might have had 5 to 10% of people that were obese or very unfit for whatever reason, but that would have still left 80 to 90% of the population that were a decent level of fitness, had a decent standard of fitness, and that's what you were alluding to a minute ago, Drew, when you chimed in. So on the whole, most people walking around would have been much fitter than most people walking around nowadays. What you have nowadays are extremes on both ends of the spectrum. So whereas you might have had 5 to 10% of people that worked out hard in the gym back in the day, only 5 to 10%, and then only 5 to 10% of people that might have been very physically unfit. As I said, you still have that 80-90% of like a baseline of pretty fit people. You see pictures of people on beaches back in the day.
Yeah.
Everyone looks pretty good on the whole. It's very, very rare to see someone that's like fat to the point where they're like obese. You can tell they're living, more sort of a more laborious lifestyle. What you have nowadays, you have extremes on each end of the spectrum. So you might have 35% of the population that might go to the gym all the time, but then you've got 35% of people that are really, really unfit.
Yeah, sure.
So that you're only left with 30% of people which are actually normal. So whereas before, in 1970, it would have been 80 to 90% of people, now it's gone down to 30%. And then, you've got 35% of people that are randomly now almost like super athletes, but then you've also got 35% of the population who are like, essentially just completely sedentary, like completely unhealtty.
And also as well, I think like the say like more like creatives and stuff who are less like the normies that would like want to go and to the gym before going out on a Friday night and stuff like that. It's like it's doing the different things, like you said as well, like about all the different kinds of activities you can do. It's like that being important to people who say are more like. Because I feel like I fell more into that camp as well. It's like I'd rather be sitting and messing around and just doing like music-y bits and practicing guitar and then getting like straining my neck and that, because that's not healthy, just being in the same position for hours on end and stuff. But it's like that's where your priorities lie, rather than like oh, I need to exercise. This doesn't even enter the mind sometimes. So I think it's almost like changing like people's minds on that as well, and being like seeing the importance of staying healthy and being fit, but doing it in a way that's still fun and that's different. And it doesn't mean you have to go to the gym and be around all these people that like you may not want to, be in that environment, and stuff. Which is more like the climbing and doing random things like that. The thing is as well, and that's not any individual's fault. What that is almost like a failure of our education system, because of course, we have to do PE and stuff in school. But you'll never like the non-sporty people. Like I was never in football or like sports or anything in school. As well. So it was all like
but that's the thing. We have to do PE, but while we all have to do PE, I don't think that we're really actually taught like why or actually the benefits of living an active lifestyle. Are we? It's just more like it's winter, so that means we have to do stuff like rugby. Now we're going into summer, so we're doing stuff more like rounders. And then if you like cheek off the teacher, they make you do a lap of the pitch, and then it's over, and that's it. Like the lesson's ended, that's it. It's like I think there should be a more emphasis on like it's called physical education, but where's the actual education? You know, it's like it should be more just called like sports. Do you know what I mean? It's like because you're not actually really getting educated at all, are you? On
it would
anything?
be good to almost like double the time in like PE. And then
have
still have the same
Imagine
amount.
Having one of your days is just like a full like activity day.
Oh, mate, that'd be
that'd be
That'd
amazing.
be
I would
epic.
love that.
I'd love that. I'd love that. Yeah,
But
yeah.
even if they did just like, let's say you have 2 lessons of PE a week. Let's say you add a third lesson, right?
Yeah.
And that third lesson is all just theory.
actually teaching you the mythology behind it, like the philosophies behind it and the lifestyle benefits.
Start of the day, every day, you've got to do a bit of exercise in the morning before you start classes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like before you like almost doing a bit of like exercise and kind of all like even you know what I mean? Like that would be so it's more active or 3 times a week or something rather than just once a week. So you're actually instilling like a habit of exercise throughout the week.
And teaching people like, you know, you could sit down at a desk, it'd be very simple. You could be like you know the same way, you know, they use this model to teach loads and loads of different lessons in classes and subjects in school, but for some reason not with physical education. You sit down and you could be like, this is Carol goes to the McDonald's 5 times a week, or in her cupboard at home she has crisps and blah 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 blah. Carol by, you know, should be this between this weight, you know, spectrum of this weight, from this weight to be in the healthy range. But Carol is this weight. Carol also smokes and drinks too much alcohol. The latest research on alcohol and smoking shows that this is the health detriments it can have on the human body. And this is the health detriments it can have on your body by being overweight for years on end and not eating enough vitamins and nutrients. And then you could have, and this is Tiffany. And Tiffany is in the healthy range, doesn't drink and smoke. And then you could have like, by the time Carol gets to 60, she has to go to she has to be prescribed blood like blood pressure medication, stuff to help her heart ticking properly. You know, all the, you know, she's now diabetic or pre-diabetic, so she has to take all this medication for that. And it's like, you know, and then it could teach kids, and then they can make more of an informed decision rather than accidentally slipping into an unhealthy lifestyle, like so many of us do by the time we're in your 20s.
Accidentally slipping into an unhealthy lifestyle, that's like hit on the head for me.
This would be my sort of question to that, though. And this isn't saying that that's a bad idea at all. It certainly is a good idea, I think. But do you think, let's say we take that extreme that we were using earlier, just for the sake of the argument, of 35% being like quite unfit, do you think what percentage of that do you think is ignorance versus innocence? And by that I mean, how many of those people do you think understand the complications and the causation of their actions but still just go ahead with it anyway, and how many people just don't really know and do accidentally slip into it, you know?
I think that the majority of people, like just said, accidentally slip into it. So I think that most people that are unhealthy, it's like an ignorance thing, but this is exactly what we're talking about. It's being clued up on it and being educated on it, which is you could say is our government's to blame, our school system, not putting an emphasis on that. Let's face it, we get taught a lot of rubbish in school. Like how much are we taught in school is actually beneficial in the long run. To be taught how to do how to pay our taxes efficiently and how to live a healthy lifestyle physically would be far more beneficial. And we don't get taught either of those things, but we're taught all of this rubbish, and you're really scolded if you fall behind on any of this rubbish that we're taught in school. I'm not saying it's all rubbish, you know. So
yeah, that you never
but
use.
You know, but you know, obviously like English, maths to a certain level, science I think is good, you know. But I'm just saying, you know, a lot of stuff in school is pointless. A lot of stuff within those subjects is pointless. Whereas, you know, to put, even if it was just an hour or two aside a week, to be taught how to do our taxes, how to, you know, knowing the health consequences of our actions would help massively. And then, don't get me wrong, then Bullwinkle, if you are clued up on it and you decide to live an unhealthy lifestyle anyway,
and you still decide to be a Carol. Yeah,
then I'm all for freedom. So that's on that person then. But you need to know the consequences of your actions, don't you? You need to know the consequences.
There would be less Carols.
Yeah, and there would be far less Carols if we knew that, because as we said, if you like using that sort of term, like accidentally slipping into an unhealthy lifestyle, like nobody wants to have to take a big bag of prescription pills just to stay alive. Do you know what I mean? Or to stop, or to keep out of the hospital. Nobody wants to get diabetes and have your foot fall off, or to have to take medication.
But that's
every
when
week
I get like conspiracy
heart,
theorists, because I think like what you're saying about like what we're actually taught in schools. It's more like we're taught how to be obedient and to almost like take information and regurgitate information to get a to the right marks on a test and all that kind of stuff, rather than actually being taught things that you need in the real world to like get by in the world, like how to be entrepreneurs and like that kind of stuff, how to create things in a business sense, or how to create something in your community, or things like that. Like they're not even, that isn't even something that's discussed or is a thing. And it's like, why is that? Like why is that actually why is the people in power, the government or whatever, why have they set that up in a way that isn't beneficial to society? Like that's just obvious to me that it's not. And so then that's why when I get a conspiracy, and you say about who wants to have that whole big bag of pills, it's like who's benefiting from having those big bag of pills? It's like the companies that are making the big bags of pills, and it's like more of a like problem in America and stuff, but like the pharmaceutical industry and stuff.
But it is a big problem.
Are there more nefarious like things like pushing these agendas on a bit? You know?
Maybe, and it's hard to say, isn't it? But the thing is, I mean, a bigger problem in America, but a big problem here as well. Obviously, we have the NHS in Britain, and what's that funded by? It's funded by taxpayers' money. So the more people that are unhealthy, the more of the strain on the NHS that is, and then how is that going to be remedied with taxpayers' money? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like we're all basically paying for the Carols to live. We're all paying for those Carols' big bag medication. Every single taxpayer in this country is. So that's not good. It'd be nice to have a little bit, use a bit of more of that tax-paying money. It's like, I know this is going to sound like a right typical British thing to moan about, but the amount of council tax everyone pays, things like that. And then how many freaking potholes are there on the roads and things like that? It's like, well, what am I paying for? It's like, what are we paying for exactly?
And we're paying for that
death.
education system that we're saying, is it teaching the right kinds of things,
Yeah.
And so we've been looking at it, and you look at the statistics on homeschooling versus people that go to actual schools, and they're, even though you spend less time on the like curriculum, like generally per day people spend less time that are homeschooled on like the amount of time that you would spend in school, like learning things in lessons, but they get better results in tests than the people that go to the schools, and also get taught as well about more things about the wider world, and have more specialised education, because you're doing a lot more one-on-one time with them.
And I think that's very important, specialised education as well.
Yeah. So that seems like, okay, so that might be the better way to do it then, Yeah.
I think there's certain things that should be to a certain standard, and I think that is obviously like English, science, maths, geography, and then like physical education, but more like we've just been talking about it, not just like, because it's winter you're doing winter sports, and because it's summer you're doing summer sports, and if you mouth off the teacher or if you're cheeky you have to do laps of the pitch. I'm talking actual education, like
specialised. We're doing this for this reason, and we're
and like teaching you actually about health consequences, what is health, why it's important to be healthy, stuff like that. So I think that should be covered to a certain standard, but I think ideally then every child should have a more tailored education, because I think even by the age of like 5, children are starting to show signs of being more talented in certain areas, and then as a parent, as a teacher, you can then try and guide them into those avenues, and help them get there, because that's what me and my missus are basically trying to do with Evie as well. So we do like flexi schooling, where they go to school 4 times a week, but then she has Friday off basically, but she's not like having Friday off and just chilling at home. Like she goes to forest school, and when she's not doing that, still like I do maths with Evie a lot at home. We both Em does a lot of arts and crafts with Evie. We take her to lots and lots of museums. We watch lots of documentaries with her, like wildlife documentaries and stuff, because she loves, she's already said she wants to be either like a zoologist or a zookeeper when she's older. She might change her mind, that's fine. But at this stage, all you can do as a parent, she clearly has a massive passion for this, is push her in, help her out, basically. So I think it's your responsibility as the adult to like, they have to do the work, but I think it's your responsibility as the adult to, far better than they will know how to get to where they want to get to go. You know, that's if you're left to your own devices, you might not figure that out until you're like 30.
Yeah.
If you've got a caring parent, you can put them on the train
Kind of
tracks,
nurture that, yeah.
and then by the time they're 20, they've arrived at their destination. You know,
At the moment, the year that people sort of get to specialise their subjects is year 9. That's when. So that's when I would have picked.
I think that's
like,
far too late.
Yeah, that's when I would have picked like drama, citizenship, those things, computer.
So was that going into year 9? Or was that because with me and Drew, it was year 10. Do you remember Drew?
Ooh. So I think it was year 9.
So
I think year 7 and 8 was just general, and then year 9, 10,
yeah.
11.
I didn't actually know that when me and Drew were in school. We didn't get specialised subjects until year 10 and 11, did we?
And then
Maybe it was year 10. Maybe it was the end of year 9. Maybe you are right. I do agree. It's too late. And because I also think by then, if you've almost been like hammered down by this general learning that they're sort of giving you for those, 9 years, let's say, you're almost done with school at that point. You know, you've almost like lost the fun in learning and lost the fun in actually seeking out information. When if you were maybe learning stuff that you were more interested in and did want to maybe pursue a career in earlier, then you might still have that spark for learning. You know?
Yeah,
I saw this thing the other day. Someone was I was talking about the luthier thing. Like, there's this amazing 2 guys in South Africa called and it's called Cassini guitars. And like, I was just watching an interview with them, and it was like really cool. And they were just talking about how they got there. They worked together. It's like 2 best mates. They've been best mates since they were like really young and that. And they ended up working together, and they do these really high end, amazing guitars. And they both went to like Waldorf schools and in the UK that's like Steiner schools. And I was like, oh cool, he was talking because I've been like looking up a bit of stuff about Steiner because it's more specialised education for like
the only problem is they're very rare, aren't they?
Yeah, they are around and stuff, but yeah, like so the closest one in Somerset is Totnes, like that's where there's one here. Because the closest one to me here is in Hereford, so it's about 45 minutes away. But they are all around the UK and stuff. But so
but it's not like handy like most schools are.
Exactly, yeah. And but they were talking about it and saying that they have their full school, do their full school thing. And then rather than going straight to like college and like university after, it was you did a extra year. So you're still like within the school for that extra year, but in that extra year, you literally just do one thing that you want to do. So like you have a project, and that project could be anything. It could be like guitar building, or like ballroom dancing, or like whatever like really you want to delve into deeply, but still have the full support of the school. Because normally if you go away and do something like that, it would be like, you know, your parents would have to like, I don't know, do you know what I mean? It's like if you haven't got that structure behind it, it's quite hard to do a year-long project of something just because you want to do it, you know. So like it's still like in an education like setting, and you got your lecturers and you got the helpers and all that kind of stuff, and the full support of the school, but they can fully go and on a deep dive into something. And I thought that was a really good idea, like before going to university or before that next step.
Sure.
Like and that seems like a good way of doing it, because you've had the whole time in school to like really, you know, get all your education and stuff, and then you can really, you know, if you have got more of an idea of what you want to do but not totally commit to it by going to university for like 4 years or whatever, then I
think that's so good. And I think it's like, if it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because like, it's not like they're going to forget.
These guys made guitars in that year, and that was like how they started on that thing. And I thought that's really amazing. Cool that they got the opportunity to do it.
I think that's really good, and I think, you know, and it makes sense as well, because it's not like in that year as well they're just suddenly going to forget everything they learned in school up until that point. Because I mean, if that was the case, then people that are like 16 would be way smarter than people that are 30. And I think in general, people that are 30 are much smarter than people when they're 16, you know, or like, you know, you're smarter at 30 than you were when you were 16. Mate, I'm way smarter now than I was when I was 16, like way smarter, do you know what I mean? Because you're always just accumulating knowledge. And the key things that we need really to live, you're not going to forget anyway. Because if it's useful, you're going to use it enough that you're not going to forget it. Like, don't get me wrong, there's loads and loads of stuff that you forget from school, but there's way, way more you learn that actually is useful information. So I think that actually makes loads of sense, and I think that's a way better way of doing things. A way better thing. I think another thing that I just wanted to mention as well with like the school system, which I'm not a fan of, and I think it just leads to burnout with a lot of children and just overwhelms and destroys them far more than it does actually teach them, is I feel like there's this weird the philosophy of almost like more is better is chucked onto kids a lot, I think, in the education system. I can't speak for other countries, but I think in this one, it seems like even since we were in school, Drew, it just seems like it's gone like more crazy, like more homework, more hours of this and that. And it's like, I think what you're doing is you're putting a lot of pressure on kids, and you're just learning to all this like fatigue and burnout. And then when you add on to that, what you alluded to earlier, Drew, with about almost like, you're all just made to like fall in line and stuff. Not only are you not taught, physical education properly and like how to do your taxes and stuff like that, but you're also just basically, it's like, just almost like punished until you fall in line. And then not only that, but you're like stressing kids out by expecting them to do all this stuff when they're just kids. It's like it's like you're only ever going to be a kid once. Let the kid develop and let the kid nourish themselves. Nourish their growth, not like in a natural way, like tending to say you plant a seed, you tend to the seed, you water the seed, you let it grow. You don't force it to with all of these like forced sort of methods and stuff like that. I can't remember what country it was I was reading about. Funnily enough, on this subject, I was reading about a country the other day. I might have saved the article, so I'll look it up. But it was, I think it was Finland, accidentally got like the highest rates of education in the world not that long ago, and it was all a complete accident. But basically, the way they achieved this was just by like cutting massively how much kids had to do in school, and but what it led to was way better test results, and the kids actually doing better in school, even though they had to do a lot less. And it's one of these weird things, isn't it? This whole sort of like more is better philosophy, because in pretty
it's
much
like more of what, like I think as well, like where it's just more of having to like memorize information and regurgitate it. Like imagine if like half of it, or there was a little bit of that, but then half of it was also like, what are you creating? Like what are you making? Like, because I think when because we've talked about how this happens as well. Like when you're creating something, the most flow state I've ever been in my life is when I'm like creating something or doing something that's like, whether it's music or building something or making or whatever. Like when you get into that flow state, like that's actually like it gives you it fuels you rather than like fatigues you. So if all this stuff is getting fatiguing of trying to memorize all this information, it's like that's important, but also it's important to teach kids how to make things and to how to be creative, and like what you're saying about doing the art and stuff, and actually the fun that is in that. Because when you actually create something in the world, like when you do something positive in the world, like you create something in the world that's like that other people can enjoy, or that I don't know. I think that should be more of a point.
Yeah, rather than, as you said, it's almost like it's literally what you were describing was almost a bit like what we were saying about almost like letting a flower develop and grow. Like water the flower, let it grow. You can't like force something,
because that will naturally happen if that's like nourished in kids, like they are naturally very creative. You can just I even watch Ruben like just going around now, and he's like so interested in like picking stuff up or trying to do things, and that it's like they're already thinking like, how can I do this I want to do, and and
to use that flower analogy, literally what happens if you overwater a flower?
It dies.
Yeah, it literally dies.
I think there's almost like a mental whiplash in school as well. Like by the time you're on your 5th lesson of the day and you spent all day learning, and it's first maths, then English, then science, then whatever, and then your final lesson of the day, most of the time you're switched off by that point anyway. You're not going into that lesson willing to learn anything. You're just there counting down the minutes until you can go home.
You're looking at the clock, aren't you? You're looking at the clock. And it's very strange as well, because like in most things in life, we know that more the more is better philosophy isn't better, we know it isn't. So it's like,
that's the thing with the home education thing. It was like they spend less hours a day. It's not, on average it's 4, or it might even be less or something, but the results are better.
And also, I bet in between those bouts of sitting at the desk and doing maths and English, whatever, they're spending time in their garden. They're spending time running around the house. They're spending time, so it's like, it's more natural. Life isn't, it's very unnatural, actually, a school system, if you know what I mean, like just putting someone at a desk all day. Earlier on, obviously, we were talking about like, physical education, standards of health, working out, things like that. Like using the more is better analogy. One of the good things about like physical health and fitness we've known for a very long time, like more exercise isn't necessarily better exercise to an extent. What I mean by that is like frequent exercise is really good. But once you've been working out for, say, the upper limit is really about 2 hours a day, anything beyond working out 2 hours a day, I'm talking intense exercise. Obviously, you can go on like an all-day hike or something like that, but that's still considered steady state, even if that's going to wreck your legs from the constant inclines and stuff, if you're going up some big mountains and stuff. That's still considered steady state exercise. If you're going to, say, go into a gym and do some quite physically intense exercise, whether that's like running, lifting weights, climbing, anything like that, some sort of sport. There's a reason why football and rugby matches go on about 80, 90 minutes. It's like anything beyond sort of 2 hours is actually detrimental. We know that. We know that. There's, you can get an amazing workout in 15 minutes if you want to. It doesn't have to be hours. So it's very strange, isn't it, that we know for, say, with physical health, to be in peak physical condition, anything, say, past 2 hours is actually detrimental. But with the education system, it's like, no, this isn't enough more. This isn't enough more. Well, actually, you want to find that sweet spot. It's not actually more is better. It's actually finding the sweet spot. And as I said, let them, nourish them, let them flourish, let them bloom, let them blossom.
Flourish, baby.
I don't even necessarily think it's like the teacher's fault either. Like, I think they're piled on with so much pressure.
They're just another part of the system.
Exactly. They're just piled on with so much pressure to follow.
They're just told to do that.
Exactly, to follow the guidelines, which... It must be so frustrating as a teacher. Like, even my mum. Yeah. My mum's a reception teacher.
Yeah.
And, there's so many things that she wants to teach the kids that you're just not allowed, because realistically you have to follow the guidelines that Ofsted or whatever the governing body set you.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you just can't teach, essentially. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's awful, isn't it? I remember you telling me before that, if you don't mind me saying, she's even like got into a little bit of trouble in the past, hasn't she? Because she's almost like done what she has thought is best rather than what she has been told to do, and then as a result she actually got like punished for that herself.
Yeah, well, my mum's great in that sense, is that she wants the kids to learn in the way that she deems best fit, and that is from being human and from teaching them properly. And it's a tough job being a teacher.
Oh,
but
sure
I can definitely see it from my mum. It is a really tough job.
Oh yeah, and it's not blaming like individual teachers or anything like for this, is it? It's the system itself. It's a wider problem, isn't it? It's a much wider problem. It almost needs to be just like revamped. Like completely, almost like from the ground level up, just like like made anew.
I think it will happen at some point. I mean, we look through history and see how many times that the working days have gone from like 4 to 5 to changing how we live as a society. It makes sense that at some point we're going to look at it and go, this isn't right, and redo it,
I hope so.
No.
I'd like to think, really, the onus is on us to do that though, really, isn't it? Because especially me and Drew, not so much your generation, because your generation is still coming into their own, but really, people in their mid-30s, it's almost like up to us to do it, isn't it? But I think the problem is like a lot of people themselves just like too tired themselves. They've got too many personal issues to be focusing on the wider issues, or do you know what I mean? A lot of the time you're just focusing on, as we were saying earlier on, making sure you got enough food on the table for your kids or whatever else your issues are. So it's very hard to devote all this time, and unfortunately, a lot of the career politicians that end up being politicians. Well, yeah, literally for their career, they literally they've never really done anything but be a politician. They did like politics in college and university, and then they're just gone straight into it. They're almost like so out of touch with the rest of the country, and oftentimes just so full of
reflective
baloney.
Of what's actually happening in normal people's lives, and that is.
Well, yeah, especially when you hear that certain politicians are like on like such like high up salaries and stuff like that. They just end up sort of being out of touch. Out of touch, don't they?
Yeah, and I think about this homeschooling thing as well. Like you're saying, it's like the onus is on us. Like that, I really want to do that. Like I think, if that's going to be the better way of doing it, then really, like I want to do that. But then I think, how can I even make that possible? Like, what would how could I literally do that? Like, even if Meg stayed home and did like most of the homeschooling and stuff, then it's like, okay, and then we rely solely on my wage. And it's just all of a sudden becomes this big juggling act of how can I give my kid the thing that is going to be best for them, and that's what you want to do. So then all of a sudden that's where all the pressure comes in, and it's like like you say, like you're concentrating on just having enough money to like have the kind of food that you want and that kind of stuff. So it's like It's crazy, isn't it? Like, I can see why people it's easier to put a kid in school, but then there's all those issues that we're talking about. So it's like,
it's a very weird time we're living in at the moment. Because in some ways, it's like the best time ever. And what I mean by that is obviously, whether it's like preventative, like whether it's like surgery, anything like that. It's like, very, very good. We've got lots of technologies coming out which like can really, really, help people's lives. Some really amazing things you hear about almost on a weekly basis.
Woolly mammoth coming back.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And even things like crazy things like hearing about like, these like hover bikes and stuff like that. Like in some ways, it's the best time ever to live. There's some awesome stuff. But at the same time, it's almost like a complete mirror of what we were saying earlier on about like the physical health, how it's changed between say like the 70s and now, how it's like extremes on each end. So it's like, we do have in say 35% of the sector of life nowadays is like the best it's ever been. But in other ways, as you said, it was actually very common in like the 60s that like to have stay-at-home mums who would say manage the shopping, the housework, picking up the kids from school or whatever, sorting them out, helping them with their education, and then the man would work, and then that would be more than enough to pay for your entire family. Your car, your house, and people would have good houses. Like back in like my grandparents, when they got my grandfather's just passed away, but 4-bedroom detached house in Wemden with a front and a back garden and a driveway. Wemden is considered the nicest place to live in our area as well. So the premier place in town. And he was like the manager of Sealwise Motors, which is like, it's a decent job. Do you know what I mean? But it's not like he had to be some freaking millionaire entrepreneur to do that. Nowadays, by contrast, most people that were his age, the same age he was when he say bought the house in Wemden, are like really struggling. And like, good luck. Good luck as just like a normal person on an average wage trying to get a house like that, and your freaking missus not even working. Like, good freaking luck, because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, that's
it's not going to happen. I mean, earlier on, I think this is an exclusive, but early September, Bullwinkle was going to be moving to Australia and living in Australia for a while. So he's still going to be working part time for AW, so that's cool. So he's still going to be doing bits and bobs about so he won't be a stranger hopefully. But I was talking to Michael John about it just earlier on today actually, JP, who works upstairs in the research and development department. But and he was saying it'll be much better for him, to be honest. He was like, like a lad Nathaniel's age, he was like, you have a hell of a lot better chance at like buying a house and stuff in Australia than you will over here. Yeah. But it's just like, it sort of just goes hand in hand with what we're saying, isn't it? It's like a lot, to be honest, there's a lot of issues in this country at the moment.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be...
cost of everything. Just going to...
cost of living.
And especially when you want to live a healthier lifestyle and you get more like... For me, that's become more important as I've gotten older, and I'm wanting to eat like healthy food, and and that's becoming like the most important thing. Like every time I go to the shop and I do that, it's like 40-50 quid for like just
it's painful,
that shopping thing for that day, and I'm like, what?
It's painful.
How much per day am I spending just to like live? It's like crazy.
And what's insane as well is the people that are making that food, like the farmers and stuff. They're not even making money.
No.
That's what's insane to me, is that you feel like you're forking out a fortune, and you certainly are, to get all this produce. But the people that are providing that produce aren't even really making much from it either.
Funnily enough,
no one's benefiting.
Funnily enough, it was literally my granddad's funeral yesterday. So as a result, I had a lot of extended family there. My second cousin, Martin Hope, who has a farm in Gloucester, I was talking to him loads about his farming and being a farmer. It was actually very interesting because he farms everything. Like he just does everything. But he was basically saying at this stage, the benefits obviously of being a farmer aren't at all how much money you make from it. He was actually saying it's how much he can save from obviously basically just being self-sufficient. So so he has He has a lot of cattle, for example. So
doesn't have to pay for meat and
so when it comes to slaughter the cattle, he'll just fill up a freezer with from top to bottom with just the whole of a cow, and that will last his family obviously because he's got like a daughter and a wife and that. that'll last his family like months. And it's like, he's got chickens, and each, he says he gets, he doesn't even have loads of chickens, but he has enough chickens that he says he gets 3 eggs a day. Obviously, that piles up a lot. I think it's 7 days in a week, 3 sevens, 21 eggs a week. So it's more than enough for him and his family. So so he's enough to that. He gives some free range chickens to some friends of his and stuff like that for very cheap. So it's actually the benefits of being a farmer nowadays are far more on what you can save, because I know for me, like, I love steak. But steak nowadays is extortionate. It's just so expensive. But the good thing for my cousin Martin is, he can eat so much red meat and it doesn't cost him anything. So it's things like that. That's what he's saving money on. His missus, he basically handles like dairy and meat, and his wife basically grows the veg. So that's quite cool in that regard. And he said, he said it's tiring work, mind. He said some days he's working until like midnight. And and if it's he said he doesn't do as much dairy farming as he used to, just because he said it's just so much hard work apparently doing dairy farming. So it's like now he just almost like has a cow for milk for like him and his wife, and then maybe like a more like if you want to sell it a bit as like almost like a bit some really nice hustle. Like organic milk as like a bit of a side hustle. But he's got his milk, his eggs, and his meat and his veg taken care of. So his expenses mainly just go on, like more like bills.
Yeah, and that's a massive part of your like when it's important to you to eat healthy, like that is a massive part of your expenditure, isn't it? Like
100%.
So yeah, cool. I can imagine that'd be amazing.
Yeah, he did say he said even though he lives a very hard lifestyle in terms of just like pure hard work, he said he loves it, and it's like good work because he said he wakes up in the morning, he steps outside. He lives in like the middle of nowhere in Gloucestershire. So, all he sees is like, the sun's coming up, just rolling fields for like as far as the eye can see. He'll hear like the roosters, the roosters call, the call of the rooster.
Good honest work.
He'll go get the eggs, he'll go milk his cow, he'll go feed all the cow, all the cattle and stuff like that, tend to all of that. And it's like, it's hands on all day long, but it's like nice work, it's like nice work, like living in this nice big farmhouse and stuff. So, it said it is hard. It's hard, and he did say it is still stressful because obviously, as you hear everywhere, like it's hard being a farmer nowadays. You don't make the sort of profits that you used to, which is a real shame in itself because the UK basically used to be like the best farming nation on the planet.
Wow,
and that's really not an exaggeration. Did you know that? I feel like I'm branching off now, but in like say up until like 100 years ago, the finest wool in the entire world was found in the UK. And the best of the best was found in the Cotswolds. So the best tailors in the world at the time were considered Italian. So you would have the finest Italian tailors travel to the UK by boat specifically to go to the Cotswolds, and they would buy Cotswolds wool and pay like insane prices for Cotswolds wool. So if you were like a sheep farmer, especially in the Cotswolds, but pretty honest anywhere in the UK, but especially in the Cotswolds, like in say like the 19th century, 18th century, you would basically just you're making a killing from essentially having a field with a load of sheep. All you have to do is make sure they don't escape and get killed by anything and feed them, and just shear the wool when they're ready. And these Italians would come along like, oh, what do you want? What is a wool? I could make so much a good garment from these. And that was a bit Borat-y, wasn't it? But and then they would just make a killing from it. But like, good luck doing that nowadays as like a sheep farmer, Sad, really, isn't it? I don't even really get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
The shepherds.
Bring back the shepherds. We should write a song about it. It's like Live Aid, but it's called Bring Back the Shepherds. Yeah, man, that's our little goal for us, to write a song called Bring Back the Shepherds. Yeah, no, it is a shame, isn't it? Like, best farming country on the planet, but all the produce in the supermarkets and everything is all from abroad.
Yeah, and now the farmers are getting booted by the government as well, like with all the inheritance tax changing.
Oh, awful!
And that, so.
I have such an issue with inheritance tax anyway in general. It's such a corrupt tax, I think. The idea that your parents pay tax all of their lives, right? And then when they die, whatever they have left, the government are like, yoink, I'm going to take a fat percentage of this as well. Like, I don't see there's any way that you can see it as not being corrupt. You know, it's just,
and that's why I love
super
what Sandro Forte said. And
Yeah.
he was just like, inheritance tax is the only tax that is voluntary, and like what he meant with that
if you're
is
clever
like,
with it.
yeah, you can always like avoid it, or like or I don't think that's the right word, but do you know what I mean? Like
There's
can always,
ways
yeah,
to go
like
about
with setting
things.
up trusts and doing different things. If you speak to a financial advisor, you might have to pay the money to the financial advisor to show you how to do it, but that's going to be a lot less money than it would be than what you'd be given to the government if you just didn't do anything and they took out their massive chunk of it, you know. But it is crazy, man. I hate all that. It's like, shouldn't even be a thing.
Oh man, yeah. And I think on that note, I think we'll wrap up this week's Pandora's box. But you know, let's all keep hope alive, remain vigilant.
Bring back the shepherds.
Let's bring back the shepherd, baby.
Yeah.
Bring back the shepherd.
Bring back the shepherd.
Let's do our phys ed. Quick shout out to what was that guy that used to work with Josh? Foxy. Is it Matthew? Yeah, Matthew Fox, I think his name is. Used to be a Royal Marine. His brother's Jason Fox, the famous SAS guy that's on the telly all the time. But honestly, never heard the phrase phys ed before. So quick shout out to Foxy, because when we were at Download 2023, he knew I was really into training. He comes up to me, he's like, a download. I'd spoken to him a bit before, but like never properly. But Josh told me that he'd always be like, "How's your big Viking, mate?" and stuff like that. Like speaking to Josh when they'd be at work and that. And just for some reason, I don't even know why, but it made me laugh so much. He came up to me down and he was like, "How's your phys ed going?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Your phys ed." He was like, "Physical education." And I was like, "Oh, right." And I just thought, phys ed. That's so good, isn't it? Such a good phrase. So like, I've just adopted that now, and every now and again, people are like, "How's your phys ed?" But yeah, so let's keep our phys ed alive. Phys ed. Bring back the shepherd.
Some phys ed.
Yeah, take part in some phys ed. Bring back the shepherd, baby. Thanks for watching, everybody. We love you. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify. Have you had a chance to put out any stuff on TikTok?
No, but we are on the horizon, man.
Is it imminent?
It's coming back.
Imminent.
It's coming
right,
back.
Cool,
So keep an eye out.
Keep an eye on our TikTok, because we're bringing that back with a vengeance, people.
2025, the year of TikTok.
Whoa, the year of the Chinaman. Da 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 da. Catch you next time.